Okay, I've become obsessed with creating animations inside Comfy UI with the new Stable Diffusion video. And I know that there's other ways to do it now. In just a few days, there have been all sorts of free alternatives or easier alternatives than dealing with Comfy UI to get your hands on this. But I'm in this and I'm trying to learn Comfy UI anyway. So I just keep creating images and throwing them in there and watching them move and go, oh, wow, isn't that cool? But I'm also seeing a lot of people doing some really creative stuff where they're putting thought into it to tell an actual story instead of just like crazy random stuff. So I thought, well, I'd like to do that too. My basic approach is I'm going to use chat to create a basic story and some images. Create a cinematic video that tells a story, two people meeting at a grocery store in the falling in love, getting married in France, and then being abducted by aliens. Tell the story visually by creating 6 different images, each of which tells a different part of the story. Creating an image. Let's see how it followed instructions. Okay, well that's the 1950s where they meet. Okay, so far we have them meeting in the grocery store and then getting married. They're abducted by aliens already. This was only 3 images. I wanted 6. Please create images that tell the story happens the images you created. All right, so they met at the grocery store and now they dated, right? I love it. They had a coffee. So the next one would be after they get married. Okay, so they got married and now they're just walking through France. This is good stuff. Thank you, chat. You get me. Yes, I was so hoping this would happen. Like what's happening in the ship after abduction. Now I got to just download all of these. Okay, so now I have all of these here saved in a folder called Grocery Store Marriage. And I'm just going to one by one drag these into the Comfy UI interface and create the animations. So I've loaded the first one up into Comfy UI. Let's just take a look at the animation settings here. I'm going to keep it kind of subtle. I'm going to actually start at this point here. And I'm going to put the video frames to 25. I'm going to do 12 frames per second. And I'm going to go with an augmentation level of around 0.28. That is not scientific. I just dragged it and that's where it landed. We're going to take 12 steps to do this. We're going to keep the CFG around 2.3, but we can play with that as well. Leave the sampler at Euler, leave the schedule at Keras, and everything else is the same. All of this stays the same. This is the workflow that I shared in my last video, so you can check that out if you'd like. It just has this interpolator here. I'm going to click on Q prompt, and we're going to get right into the sampling. So here's the first pass. Now, I inadvertently had ping pong on in this section up here. So it created an image where they go back and forth, but really that's not that bad. If I wanted to turn this off, it would speed this image up a little bit. As long as I don't change anything else in terms of settings, I can just turn this off and click Q prompt and it will just immediately give it to you without the interpolated frame. So now there's no ping pong because I also turned that off. So now we just have this fast browse. I think I like the interpolation, but not the ping pong. So since I've turned the ping pong off, I'm going to turn the interpolation back on by not bypassing this anymore. Click on Q prompt. And now we have a little bit slower. In fact, I've got the frame rate up at 34. Let me take the frame rate down to like 21. Click Q prompt. So now it's a little bit more sane, but it's still only a couple of seconds long. If I wanted to make it even longer without having to re-render everything or do whole new settings with frame rates, I could change the multiplier here to maybe 3. But when we do that, we kind of lose some of the smoothness here. There might be ways to make that better with this, using a different model or knowing what to do here. I've got the interpolation with a multiplier of 3, about that speed. I'm going to leave all those settings there. I'm going to go ahead and save this image out, and then we'll drop in the next image. This is the second one where they have their date in the diner. I'm going to Q prompt and it's going. So this is your basic zoom in animation. Not a lot going on in the background. I'm going to go ahead and save it out, but I'm going to give this another render. I'm going to change the augmentation level. Now the augmentation level, I've come to understand, is really about adding more noise to the image when it processes things. And I think that's why it might give some more action and activity to the scene that's not there, just simply because you're giving more noise to the image to work with. So let's go ahead and take that augmentation level up to 75. And the motion bucket too. What if we played with that a little bit and popped that up to like 180. So I like this one way less. It gets all kinds of messed up. That's just too much. I just won't save this one out, and I'll go back and use the last one, and let's move on to the next image. This, of course, is where they're getting married in France. Oh, I made a big mistake. I did not change all those settings to something reasonable again. So I'm going to go ahead and let it go. In the meantime, let's change these settings back to something reasonable. I'm going to change the motion bucket back down to 76. And the augmentation level I'm going to keep back down to 0.16. It's not going to work for this render, but it will for the next time. That had the same settings as the last one, too much zoom, so we need to cue it again. Here's the new one. I like that it's a different camera movement. There's really just no detail in these faces, but I'm probably asking a lot of it. It is a wedding. There's lots of faces to deal with. We've got long shots. It's not like these are close-ups of faces. Maybe if we had some close-ups, it would do a better job. I still think it's doing a good job of telling the story. It's just more illustrative than I was imagining in my head. I was thinking close-up shots, a lot of intimate things, and that's all in the prompting. I could have had Doyle do other things. I had the opportunity to change the look and feel, but I still think this is going to work for the purposes of our demo. I'm going to leave this one just as it is. Now that's what I'm talking about there. I mean, yeah, the feet get blurry and fuzzy, but I don't know if I can ask for much more than that. I mean, it's got a nice pan, but everybody's moving. It's not just the two in front. I'm going to go with that. Go on to the next image. I'm super stoked about this one. I want to see them levitate, right? I mean, this is an abduction, and the thing just darted off. Oh, man, that'll be the day. Let's just see what it does here. Hopefully it won't just be a zoom in or something like that. I find that like when there's roads and paths and halls and that kind of stuff, it tends to want to just go down the path in the hall, which is something that could happen here, but I hope does not. Interesting. I mean, what? Okay, this is cool because it's got them, right? It's still moving. So the pan works. We're moving back because the ship stays there. It's like they're captured and moving along, except that they disintegrate. Maybe we can play with some of the settings over here and change that a little bit, but I'm not sure. Let's just see. I could add a few more steps, like make it 20 steps, like some of the other workflows I've seen. And in terms of the motion, we can raise the augmentation level a bit. Maybe the motion bucket to 100, something. Wow. Okay, I'm going to say that's not what I wanted. The movement's cool, and it seems like it's going faster, right? Like the vehicle is going faster, but they're just doing some crazy stuff. So was that going to be a function of the augmentation level, or is that going to be a function of the motion bucket? I'm going to take the augmentation level down to 0 and the motion bucket to 98 because that's what the little voices inside my head told me to do. Okay, I changed a bunch of stuff, including the CFG, which I thought would do the opposite of what this is doing, which seems like it's a little bit more baked in than I want. Now, they stay more coherent up until the time that they don't. This is what's happening. They're not being sucked up into it. They're being beamed up. That's what that is. So I think this is probably the best video choice for the beam up. We have this one last image of them in the ship. We don't have any augmentation level going, and I'm not sure what impact that had on. Maybe because there was no new noise, it kind of got a little bit baked in. When I first started playing with this, it was like at 02. I'm going to put it right back to 02, so there's at least a little bit of noise being generated. Will he move a little? Will they walk? I really want if they're walking, I want them to walk. And they did a really good job in that other picture. Well, this isn't bad. I mean, the alien's kind of freaking out a little bit. They got a little bit of foot motion going on there. And so to put all of these together and do some post-production work, we're going to use CapCut. If you've never used CapCut, today's the day to start. Let's check it out. If you haven't heard of CapCut yet, I'll bet you're going to run across it every now and then. I used to think it was kind of a really low-end app editor that I would never use. Well, they've got all sorts of AI tools and fun stuff. And if you just need to do some quick video editing with some clips, it's perfect for this kind of stuff because they do have a lot of AI tools we'll just look at real quick. Like you can take a long video and automatically it'll use AI to create a short out of it. You can remove backgrounds in video. You can upscale your video. These are all things that a lot of people are paying extra for with extra tools, and they're all available here, including creating text to image. You can take a script and it will turn it into a video with AI, and so on and so forth. You can check all this stuff out. Really cool tools. But right now, we're just going to use it to edit video. So we're going to create new. We're going to create a blank canvas, and then we're going to drag our clips I literally did just drag them all in here, and I've got duplicates of a couple because I wanted some takes to choose from. So we'll go through here and we'll choose the ones that are the best as this all processes. We'll put them in order, then we'll add music. So now we've got them. Now we just need to make sure they're in the right order. So we've got the first one where they meet, and now they're having a date, then they get married, and now they're walking through France, and then they get abducted. I got 3 versions of their abductions. So I think I like that one, right? The last one where they just sort of whisked up. I'll just select the other 2, delete them, and then they're in the ship. We're just going to tell this story in 22 seconds because as I look at these, the pacing of them is fine. Let's do some post work, just some basic stuff to give it a look and feel. Let's go to the beginning. We'll choose this clip and let's click effects and see what we've got. You can see there are a lot of effects to choose from. Some are a transition. So for example, for this one, TV on is one I'm interested in looking at. I also wonder if they've got like some scan lines that would make it look like an older film. Let's get some music. Let's just add a soundtrack that is appropriate for this incredible story we're telling. Then we just export it, we download it, we put it wherever we want to, and then we change the world in the process. And of course, there are options that have been available like Pika Labs and Runway for a while that do basically the same thing. But this is how I do it in Comfy UI. I'm curious, are you interested in doing things like this? Is this giving you ideas? Will you use this or another process to basically do the same thing? What is your interest in AI filmmaking in general? I would love to know so I know how to gear my content. And if you are interested in this kind of thing and you're enjoying what I'm doing here, why not subscribe to this thing? I mean, I would do it for you if your stuff interested me.